Hi guys, it's Tanya from Global Bakes, and we're back today with another recipe. Today we are going to make some carrot cake cupcakes, and we're going to top those with some brown butter, buttercream, and a little bit of toasted coconut. This recipe is perfect for any time of year. A lot of people associate carrot cake with Easter though, so Easter's coming up here very shortly, so I thought I would share my carrot cake recipe. This recipe was developed after many tries and attempts with other recipes. Every time that I used a recipe, I found that there was too much oil in it. And I even used one from a website that I really like their other recipes, but when I put the cupcakes on the counter and I picked one up, I noticed there was a ring still of oil left on the counter, and I just didn't like that. So I kept playing around, trying to find a way to have a really super moist carrot cake without having too much oil in the batter. So that's what I've come up with, and I hope you try this recipe because it's fabulous. So let's get started. Okay, so first we're going to take our flour. Now I'm going to have all of the ingredients listed on the website. If you click on the link in the description box below, you'll be able to get the entire recipe. But we're going to start with our flour and the rest of our dry ingredients. I've got baking powder and baking soda. I'm going to just dump both of those in together. And I have measured all of my ingredients before I start. That's called mise en place. That's what I always do with my recipes. That way I don't get halfway through a recipe and find out that I'm out of something. So I've got everything all together, measured out and ready to go. Now I'm going to add my salt. There's about a half a teaspoon of salt. And all of my spices I've just put into one little cup. So we're going to dump all of those in and just whisk those together until they're kind of incorporated. You don't have to go crazy here. One of the things I love about this recipe is it doesn't use a mixer. We don't want to overbeat our batter. We don't want to make a tough batter. So we are just going to mix by hand, which makes it easier because I don't have to get out the mixer. So then I'm going to take, I've measured out my brown sugar and my white sugar, my granulated, and I'm going to dump those two into a large bowl. I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of oil. Now you can use coconut oil, canola, vegetable, whatever your choice is. I've tried it with all of them and they really taste pretty much the same. Even coconut oil does not give a coconut flavor, but even if it did, it wouldn't be bad because like I said, we're putting some coconut on top and I think it's a good flavor to add. So go ahead and add that in with your sugar. We are also going to use about a cup of applesauce. I use unsweetened applesauce. And this is how I was able to cut down on the amount of oil in the recipe. The applesauce provides moisture without it being greasy. And it also helps to cut some of the calories. So if you're worried about that, that's a good tip for you. A little bit of vanilla is going to go in there. And we have 4 eggs. Just going to crack those right into the bowl. You can crack these into a separate bowl to make sure you don't get any of the shell into your mixture. Probably the best way to do it. Okay, I've got all 4 of those in. Set that to the side. And now I'm just going to mix together. First I break up the yolks and just give your wet ingredients a good mix. So by making cupcakes, I can give a few to one neighbor, a few to a different neighbor, take some to work. But if you don't want to make cupcakes, you can also use this recipe for in a 9x13 pan. Make a sheet pan. You could divide it in 2 and bake 2 8-inch rounds if you'd like to do a cake as well that way. Now 2 more things. Obviously this is a carrot cake, so we need carrots. I've already pre-shredded these carrots in my food processor. I like to have chunks of carrots. So I've seen some people use even like baby food carrot puree in their carrot cake. I think that's going a little too far because I like to have the chunks of carrots in there. This is about 275 grams. I think it ended up being 4 medium-sized carrots. I'm going to dump those in, and then I've also got 8 ounces of crushed pineapple. This is another great thing for flavor and moisture to replace that oil. So I'm just going to dump that right in. Make sure you drain your pineapple before you add it in. The pineapple itself has plenty of moisture. And now just give it a good mix to get the fruit all incorporated. You can also play with this if you like different fruits. You could add raisins, you could add dried cranberries, all kinds of different stuff can go in here for flavor and texture. Something else that you can think about adding if you like them is nuts, pecans, walnuts. Those kinds of things go really good with carrot cake. And there we go, that's it. Our batter is ready. There are no streaks. It's perfectly combined and it only took, what, 3-4 minutes to mix up? Now I'm gonna grab my cupcake pan. It's okay if you don't have one of these big ones. This one does bake 18 cupcakes at a time. You'll probably be able to make about 22 to 24 cupcakes with this amount of batter. So while you're in between pans, if you have one pan in the oven and you still have batter in your bowl, you want to make sure that you put that in the refrigerator while it's waiting for its turn to get into the oven. You want to stop the rising agents from doing their job until they get into the oven, and the refrigerator will slow that down. Now this isn't a necessary step, this isn't something that you have to do, but I usually like to give just a quick blitz of a pan spray in each one of my cupcake liners. It kind of helps them not stick as much. You don't have to do it, but I do it every time I make cupcakes. It's just gotten to be a habit. So I'll do it today as well. Now one of the easiest ways to scoop this batter is to use some kind of an ice cream scoop. You can kind of make sure that you get all of your cupcakes the same size. This one is a little small, but I want to make sure that I get a good number of cupcakes. So I'm going to go ahead and do 18 of this. I think this is a number, I think it's a number 3. I'm just going to do one good scoop in each one, and then I might go back and top it off with just a little bit more. You don't want to put more than about 3/4 full on these cupcake liners. Okay, now I'm going to pop that extra batter into the fridge, and I'm going to pop these cupcakes into the oven at 350 for about 20 minutes. Okay, it's been about 22 minutes. I've checked the cupcakes at 20 minutes. They weren't quite ready. To make sure they're ready, you want to check them with a toothpick, make sure it comes out clean, and also touch them real lightly to see if they spring back. So let's take a look and see if they're ready. So we'll do a quick, yep, that's coming out clean. Checking multiples. And when I poke that, you can see it springs right back at me. And we are back with fully baked cupcakes. They are cool and ready to have icing on them. So we're going to go ahead and make brown butter buttercream. I will link to another video where we created this brown butter, and no, it doesn't look a whole lot like butter because, like I said, it's brown. It gives a nice, really rich, nutty flavor. This started out as about 20 tablespoons, which once it's browned and the water evaporates, it becomes about 16 tablespoons. So about a cup of butter, about 2 sticks. And that is the browned butter. I'm leaving the little bits of milk solids in there. Some people like to remove those and just use the clarified butter, but I like to keep as much of the flavor in there as I can. I am also adding another stick of unsalted butter right in there. We're still going to have plenty of flavor from the brown butter. I'm also adding 5 ounces of full fat cream cheese. Make sure that you use full fat because cream cheese is going to make your icing really loose and kind of soft. And if you use the full fat, it'll be soft, but it's still going to be, going to be able to work with it. But if you use the fat-free versions or the reduced fat, it's going to turn so soft that you won't be able to pipe. It still tastes good, you just won't be able to pipe it. So make sure you go for the full fat. So I have got the 16 tablespoons of brown butter, 8 tablespoons of regular butter, and 5 ounces of cream cheese full fat in my mixer. I'm going to go ahead and use the paddle attachment. And I'm going to turn that on for about a minute to get it kind of whipped up together. Okay, that was about 45 seconds, and I can see that the cream cheese is completely mixed in. There are no lumps left. So I'm going to scrape the bowl, even though I do have that scraper on the side of my paddle attachment. Sometimes you still get other stuff stuck to the bottom of the bowl, so I'm going to scrape it. And I'm going to add about a teaspoon. I'm using vanilla bean paste. You can also use regular vanilla extract. I think the paste, it just has a stronger flavor and it keeps those little brown seeds, which I love the look of that, in addition to the little brown spots in the butter. And I'm going to add, this is about 6 cups of powdered sugar. We might use all of it and we might not. It really depends on what the icing consistency is like when we get towards the end. So I'm going to add about half of it right now. I'm just going to scoop it in here. This does tend to fly all over, so you do not want to turn your mixer on high after you add the powdered sugar. Otherwise, you will be taking a shower in powdered sugar. All right, little trick that I use to keep that sugar contained is to just drape your towel over your mixer. Just turn it on low. Don't turn it on any higher than that. And give it a minute to mix in. Now I can see most of that powdered sugar that was flying around has been absorbed into the butter. Turn it up just a little bit, and I'm going to give it about 30 seconds. Getting everything incorporated here. Now while that is creaming, I have about 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. You can use milk if you like, but I like the richness of cream. I'm just going to drizzle a little bit in, about half of it, about 1 tablespoon. I'm going to save some for the end in case my icing is too stiff. But it's looking pretty good. I've got all of that powdered sugar mixed in. So now let's add the rest of this powdered sugar. And sometimes it is just easier to take this off to get it out of the way. Let me get the rest of this in here. I'm leaving a little bit more than a half a cup in the bowl, because I want to see what my consistency is. So I measured out just over 6 cups. This might take all of it, but if I add too much now, it's harder to go back. Now luckily my powdered sugar didn't go too far because I kept that on low. Should have put the towel back up over it. It's all mixed in. Now I'm going to turn this up to a medium high, and I'm going to whip it for about 2 minutes. And that's been whipping for about 2 minutes, and you can see it's a really good stiff consistency. It's holding on, which is great since it has the sour cream. That's sometimes tough to do. We used enough to get some tang to the flavor, but not enough to soften up our icing. So I'm going to scrape down the bowl, give it just a little taste. That is delicious. The nuttiness of the butter is really coming through. Now, one thing that you don't want to leave out of your icing is salt. A lot of people tend to forget this, but salt really accentuates any flavor that you add to it. You definitely don't want to leave it out. I probably just put in about 1/4 teaspoon. Not too much. I don't want to overdo it. I don't think we need any more powdered sugar, but I'm going to go ahead and give it another 30-second beat to get that salt incorporated. Okay, I've got that salt mixed in. That last little bit of beating softened it up a little bit, so if you wanted to add more powdered sugar you could, but you can see that this is pretty much, this is hanging on to my spatula. So this is a really good consistency if you want to pipe with it, which is what we're going to do onto our cupcakes. So we will go ahead and get this icing into a piping bag. Now you don't have to use a piping bag. If you would like to just spread it on, that's fine. You can also add a few different flavor variations to this if you'd like to the icing. In addition to the brown butter, it'd be really good to use some rum. But I'm just going with the vanilla. So we're going to take a piping bag. Like I said, you don't have to use a piping bag, but if you choose to, it kind of makes them look pretty. I'm going to cut off the end because I'm using a coupler. Here's my coupler. And I'm just going to use a big fat piping tip that's round on the end. So when you use a coupler, this just makes it really easy if you do want to change out your tips at some point, and it also, I find it helps hold the tip better. But you can just pop the tip right there into the bag. Then you take the outside part and screw the tip on. And I'm going to just make a little ridge. Grab some of this delicious buttercream. Fill up your bag about halfway, a little bit less. You don't want to get too much in there because it gets really unwieldy, really difficult to deal with. So you can see that I've got it squeezed all the way down to the bottom. I've got most of the air pockets out. That's something you want to kind of work out, is the air pockets, so you don't get a really bad divot or anything in your cupcakes. And then just twist. And I like to tuck that right under my finger. Just gives me a good thing to hold on to while I'm piping onto my cupcakes. So I've got a few of the cupcakes here. We're going to go ahead and just start in the center. And then we're going to go all the way around and make a ridge on the outside. Fill that in. Kind of start right here in the center. Make a tall ridge all the way around the outside. And we're just going to go ahead and do that to all of our cupcakes. So before we made the cupcakes, I browned up a little bit of coconut. This is a great garnish to keep. You can actually brown it up and keep it in a little bag. I keep it in the refrigerator. And I didn't just toast it. I actually took about 2 tablespoons of brown sugar and a cup of unsweetened flaked coconut. And I put that in a pan. It takes about 3 minutes. It starts to brown. The one thing about that is you want to make sure that you keep it moving because it will burn really quickly. So just keep stirring it with a rubber spatula or a wooden spoon and keep it moving. This is going to add a really pretty touch to the cupcakes, and it also adds just a really nice depth of flavor with the brown sugar caramelized on there. So I'm just going to take and roll my cupcakes, a little coconut in my hand, and go right around the outside. We're going to make these little bird nests since it's spring. And here we have it. These are our carrot cake cupcakes with brown butter buttercream, toasted coconut, and Cadbury mini eggs on top. These are the cutest little spring treat. These are great for an Easter table, for any kind of a party you want to throw, or just to have at home. These are delicious, super simple to whip up. Cake batter takes no time. Decoration was a breeze. So thank you for watching this video today. I hope you really enjoy these cupcakes and share them with your family and friends. Please make sure that you like and subscribe. Check out the recipe below in the description box and click the bell button so that you're notified every time we post a new video. Thanks for watching. Bye. And there we have it, some carrot cake cup. That's the first blooper today. Yeah. And here we have our carrot cake. That's really hard to say.
Carrot cake. Say it with me. Carrot cake.
Go watch the ball game. Okay.